The title of the Moscow Urban Forum this year is Changing Megacities in the Age of Technological Revolution. It's a very hot topic, of course, and very connected to the transport topics for which we are gathered in this session. Transport is a strong factor of change for cities. Several cities in the world, actually, they gained dynamism, attractiveness, and economical development thanks to the smart and the strong transport policy. And technology plays an essential role to serve such policy. Mr. Mayor of Moscow in the session earlier said, we cannot imagine our transport system without the smart technologies used to manage it. And today in this session, we are going to talk about these smart technologies that are needed for managing transport. So the session will focus on urban traffic and will highlight Moscow's achievement in this field during the last years. The session aims to show the progress in terms of urban traffic conditions in Moscow and compare it with other similar cities. We have 4 speakers, and I am happy to see that we have a mixed panel of speakers from the government, from the industry and technology suppliers, and from the academic world. So we will see different perspectives to the topic. The first speaker will be Maxim Liksutov, head of the Department for Transport and Road Infrastructure Development. Then we will listen to Leon Rizzi. He's the Vice President Europe for INRIX. Then Mr. Ralph Peter Schaeffer, Vice President of Traffic and Travel of TomTom. And Dr. Oleg Karasiev, head of the chair in Moscow State University. So we only have 45 minutes, and we are already actually experiencing some delay. So let's start immediately, and I would like to just remind the speakers to stick really to 7 minutes for their intervention. And I am pleased to call first to invite Mr. Liksutov, who will introduce the session.
Большое спасибо, господин Мизгани.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mizgani, for the introduction and for your consent to moderate this session. In the name of the city of Moscow, I would like to say that we've always known that one of the main goals and main issues for the Moscow citizens is to improve the transport situation. And, well, that is linked to the commuting time and to the informing passengers of the public transport and car drivers on what happens in the city in terms of transport, where are the accidents, if unfortunately they happen, or where are the construction works. Of course, TomTom and INRIX, such global leaders, have undisputable experience in communicating, in helping communicating with the citizens, a great number of tools that allow everyone to be informed. So I'm really glad that we have signed today 2 agreements between the Higher School of Economics, the Department of Transport, TomTom, and INRIX. So 2 agreements on information exchange. I'm sure that our systems, Moscow transport system, the Center for Road Control, to be more efficient using TomTom devices or INRIX analytics in order to get to the point quicker. I'm very glad that I would like to thank them for the participation in the Urban Forum. And of course, the goal of these agreements is to make our city more comfortable, to make commuting forecastable, and I'm sure that traffic lights will, in the end of the day, be better adjusted, and commuters will go faster. spend more time at work or at home. So thank you very much. And let's start our session.
Speech, please, you're welcome. So it's from INRIX. Just one word about the topic of your speech is they analyze the transport situation in Moscow during 3 years. Using various telematics indicators and compare it to 5 cities. So let's see what were the results of this experimentation.
So very limited time, so I'm going to jump through our report. So INRIX, who is INRIX? We're a big data company. We provide solutions that help with congestion, road safety, weather, parking, and traffic. Now, one of these platforms that we offer to the market is called performance measures. We're measuring the performance of roads. So everything from real-time bottlenecks to before and after studies. And what we did was we took this platform and we took a really good hard look over the last 3 years of data at what has been happening in Moscow since they've been implementing traffic calming and congestion measures. So really, the question is, I've been living in Moscow for 24 years, and I've seen with my own eyes, living in central Moscow, a definite improvement in congestion speeds and emissions in the center of the city. So really, was it the joint first worst city in Europe or not? This was the question. So what we did was we compared congestion and speeds between 2013, January 2013 and 2016, and we compared Moscow with cities with similar highly dense population and agglomeration, so London, Los Angeles, New York, Paris, and the Ruhr Valley. And this is a before and after analysis using data which we analyze and archive every minute for every 250-meter segment of every road within the city of Moscow. And what we can see, and I'll show this later, is a general reduction in congestion levels across the whole of Moscow between these 3 years. A most recent congestion index of below 100 for all function classes of road indicates an improving trend. And again, we will see this trend drop below 100 over the next 3 years. Now, the methodology for proper analysis, Moscow was compared with other cities of similar size and similar transport issues. We looked at the most frequently driven routes in each city and the most congested, and we studied the data for those areas. And this is for each hour of the day. The proportion of those routes found to be in a congested state was recorded in the report. And finally, for comparison purposes and to remove any factors attributable to algorithmic changes, the score was brought to a baseline of 100 for all of the cities during this period. Now, in the report, we identify and separate 3 categories of road. The FRC1 roads, the big roads, and this is a snapshot of Moscow at 5 p.m. We also study at every 250-meter segment all of the FRC2 routes. This is an example of the FRC2 in Moscow. And also the FRC3 routes. If necessary, we can go down to FRC4, which is the small lanes and the courtyards inside the buildings. But for this report, categories 1, 2, and 3 roads. We studied congestion by hour of day, and most days show a morning peak beginning about 6:30 a.m., peaking around 8 a.m., and running through until 10 a.m. Evening peak begins to build around 5 p.m., peaking around 6 to 7 p.m., and runs as late as 8 to 9 p.m. across the 3 years. Comparison with other cities, very interesting points. It can be seen that while the morning peaks start to build around the same time as the other cities, and each city peaks at around 8 a.m., there is hardly any tail-off in congestion observed in Moscow, especially on the Category 1 major roads. Then we looked at quarterly congestion trends. This is an effort to identify trends. The above monthly charts are summarized into quarterly plots on the right-hand side. Now, since all cities are being measured against their own baseline of 100, which represents the average congestion index across all routes. These charts cannot be proved to use that city A is better in some way than city B, but they're very useful to identify whether congestion levels in any given city are getting worse or better. So you can see for each class of route, Moscow shows a declining trend over time, whereas other cities seem to be stable or in some cases increasing. You can see this very clearly. And for the FRC3 routes, initially we show 4 successive quarters of improvement before some variability and a rising trend over the past 2 quarters. Now this is identified as a result of roadworks. We've seen a lot of roadworks going on in the city, so this is shown. Now we look at average speed by hour, comparison by city. And again, if you look at very, very notable, the FRC2 routes, which is where you see most of the traffic calming and congestion measures implemented by the city, parking, one-way streets, no parking. We're seeing Moscow generally shows higher speeds than other cities studied, such as London and New York. Again, this is data every hour for every segment at 250 meters. Average speed by hour. This is a positive trend of increasing detected speeds year on year. And we're looking here, we're seeing FRC1, we're looking at an increase from 37 kilometers per hour in 2013 to 48 kilometers. Category 2 speeds increasing from 30 to around 35 kilometers per hour. And FRC3 speeds increasing from 23 to around 32 kilometers per hour. And I must note, off the platform, this is a platform where you input the information you wish to receive, you press the button, you wait, and you get your report. This is not done by hand, it's an automatic process off the cloud. Average speeds detected city comparison. The main point here is category 3, the inner part of Moscow, detected speeds, city comparisons, where traffic calming measures have been implemented by the city over the past 3 years. You are showing faster speeds than other major cities such as London and New York, and now comparable with Los Angeles and Paris, while 3 years ago it was not comparable. In all cases, an improvement in detected speed across Moscow routes is clearly visible. Conclusions, and I'm sorry I had to rush through this because of limited time. So despite its reputation in other recent congestion reports, Moscow traffic follows regular patterns as same as other cities, very similar to large cities of its size, with defined morning and evening peaks, albeit a late evening peak with significant congestion continuing through to the early evening period, and daytime levels of congestion not far reduced below morning peak levels. However, the trends for each FRC show distinct improvement over the 3 years studied. Now, again, we haven't compared like for like. For example, in other cities, the ring road is federally owned. So we take that out. We're only looking at roads owned by the city so that you can do a very favorable and fair comparison city to city. It's not fair to say, including speeds and congestion, the MCAD, when the M25 around London is owned by federal and therefore not included in a congestion report. Using this platform, you're able to choose the roads you wish to study and take out the roads that you do not wish to study at a level of 250 meters. So speed. The detected speed on roads have been improving over the 3-year period, with category 1 road speeds increasing from around 37 kilometers per hour to 48 kilometers, which is a 29.7% improvement. Similarly, category 2 road speeds have increased from around 30 to 35 kilometers. That's an improvement of 16.7%. And category 3 road speeds are from around 23 to around 32 kilometers per hour. That's a 39.1% improvement. And again, it's much more marked where you've seen the implementation of paid parking, no parking, widening the pavements, et cetera, et cetera. This is having a definite improvement on congestion and speeds, notable improvement. Lastly, congestion. The index used in this report to measure congestion shows that for each of the 3 classes of road, there is an index value of well below 100, which indicates an improving trend for congestion in the city. The overall conclusion to reach is that while congestion is a daily fact of life in Moscow, the trend appears to be one of general improvement over the period studied for both congestion and for speed. So well done, keep it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your comprehension regarding timing. And thank you for highlighting the importance of the methodological aspects when comparing between cities. So let's see another approach now with TomTom. They were observing Moscow since 2008, and they would like to share with us their observations and results. Please.
Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья.
Good afternoon, dear friends and colleagues.
About TomTom and our big data analytics and services we are offering for smart city development and also B2B services, automotive and smartphone industry. In the world, we have a system of 450 million connected users giving us real-time speed measurements that we can use for big data analytics and services. And we are also here in Moscow, in Russia, with all major car brands, including BMW, Audi, Daimler, Volkswagen, Hyundai, Kia. We are working with Uber and Apple to collecting data and providing services. So I want to tell you a bit what we are doing in the field and how we can help the city to further improve congestions. What we're doing already for a couple of years, what Inrix presented before, it's about measuring congestions. We have a little bit different approach. We do this meanwhile for 400 cities globally. We're comparing megacities, but also smaller cities above 800,000 inhabitants. And this is the last bench we published this year, the 2015 scores for the traffic index and the congestion level. And the worst situation last year was in the city of Mexico with a congestion level of over the full day of business hours of 59%. So how we measure this? We take out hundreds of thousands of real-driven trajectories of journeys on a road in a given area, a bounding box in each city of the 399, and then first compute an average speed over the night, so between 9 p.m. in the evening, 5 a.m. in the morning, and take it as a benchmark to measure congestion level over the whole day, over business hours, morning rush, and evening rush. And then we have an index which gives you the delay compared to the travel time you have been experienced on average overnight compared to the different levels or time of the day in the morning rush and evening rush. So you see the top 10 here on the last report, and the good news is Moscow is not anymore number one. I give you more details. Also, Mexico City is the worst city with level of 59, congestion level in Moscow over the whole day, 44%. We also measure some details, not only the congestion level over the whole day, morning rush, evening rush, but also give you information about the worst rush hour and morning, evening rush over the whole week for any city. We give you sample size, how much data are taken for the benchmark, and this is also published and available for free on our website. Good news, and Moscow, I can congratulate for the award in Paris from the Transportation Forum. Congestion level has been reduced by a number of measurements, and that's really a good thing. And we also measured this in our index over the last 4 years, where Moscow were a couple of times number one, and the last 4 years stepping down, and the level of congestion is decreasing. Really good one, and it's worthwhile to continue this path. Congratulations. TomTom, based on the big data and our experience over the last 15 years, we provide a whole suite of tools to really make traffic management, make it a better way, and start from the sensing part with GPS measurements, identify bottlenecks, for instance, delay hotspots as an example, analyze the data, and influence the traffic for the road, but also have information capabilities to reach the end user, the citizen, and come in an interaction with the government, with the car manufacturers, and create a joint ecosystem of collaborative move for traffic management. So we want to stimulate, bring these actors together, the citizen, the government, and automotive to create a joint system of the connected user, improving congestion level and make it a better place to live in cities. A few examples how we want to do it, what tools we have available. That's a platform we launched recently for 30 global cities. We continue for more cities in the next months and years. And it basically describes basic services which are free, available via a website, including Moscow, for the live traffic conditions like traffic flow, traffic incidents, delay hotspots. You can collect over the quarter, over a year, and compare how the things are changing, and also how change result when you have changed something in the infrastructure, in the traffic light control, in the traffic management, demand change, you name it. We also give statistical information, a real-time traffic index on the web page for the given cities, average speed compared to historical speeds. You can see, is it today a normal day, more relaxed, or even worse as normal? And we give some information about weather, but also other services. Let's go a bit deeper. Here's a typical commuter route from the eastern part of Moscow into the city. And I want to give you a comparison for the night hours, morning rush, evening rush, and the noon hours, what we see along this route when you compare 2040, the Q1 to 2016. And the 14 data, you show here the speed median along the whole route from A to B. And what you see, even in particular in the morning rush, which is typical, the commuter coming in and create congestion, there are quite heavy bottlenecks, a number of intersections. You see here quite nicely, even one is close to zero, it's really a gridlock traffic we see in the middle. And even in the city center, the speed's also going quite down. And the numbers always see there, the median travel time, average speed. And when you do the same for Q1 16, and what is really positive, you see quite a bit of improvement, what also has been shown by the index from INRIX and by the index from TomTom. Some of the bottlenecks even disappeared in the suburbs of Moscow. There is no degradation of the speed. It's much smoother traffic. And even the strong dip in the morning rush is less severe as in 14. So really a confirmation, some things happened and there's a change visible also in our data. What's also important, and that is a general topic of traffic management, it's not all about the road transportation, it's also understanding the user, the traffic demand, route choice behavior, and also based on our real world trips, really millions of trips, we can say quite a bit about traffic demand, where people driving, where they're going, when they're doing this, what is the route choice behavior in a certain corridor, going along a certain route from the origin to destination area. We can analyze where people are coming on a certain highway segment or road segment, where they're going to, what the share is. And that's quite relevant to take actions in traffic management, stimulate the right tuning of traffic lights and control of your traffic management system. So what we recommend as TomTom? Important is you have built capabilities for sensing with infrared and inductive loop technology. We recommend also to use GPS-based sensors, which give you much reliable travel time in the entire road network, not only on the major roads. You can use it for road analytics and really go to the bottom line of traffic demand, of route choice behavior, of travel time, delays, you name it. And then you can go the next step to take conclusions. And conclusion can be very different. It's certainly not the right way to copy a Western world solution into your city. You have really to make your own analytics first and then take conclusion on your local situation, the local demand pattern, a mix of public transport, the model split, and then think about how I can manage the road demand also in different mode of transport. I heard in a very short time the ring rail is even in operation. That's also a good thing to change traffic demand and take out road users and reduce congestion. But you can also think about how I can advance the system to have good connection points with public transit to even further decrease traffic demand on the road. That there are tools available, and we did similar projects also with German Railway, for instance, to analyze road and transit demand to compare it and improve the modal split. What we also think is take advantage of the GPS measurements, reduce infrastructure, and take a look in the data analytics. Actively influence traffic demands, I named it, and multimodal traveling is the right thing to do. Communicate with your citizens, actively involve them. That is really important. make a communication and involve people in change. And that's a way forward to make it a better place to live. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. It's important also what you mentioned this, that transferability of measures between cities has to be assessed very carefully, and we need to take into account the local context and local conditions before copying measures from other cities. Okay, so we listened to two presentations from the industrial or the technology side, I would say. Now we have a presentation from the academic side, a study with the same objective, but using skills and competences from different departments of the Moscow State University at economic, social, and technical level. And I am pleased to invite Dr. Karasiev.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники форума. Я представляю
Good afternoon, dear participants of the forum. I represent Lomonosov University. And part of our activity is research work. And we try to compare economical, social, and transport development of cities and regions. Let me bring about the result of one of this survey. This is about the prospective dynamics of the development of the transport complex. So this is the result of the work of a big interdisciplinary team representing different departments as well as research departments of the university. So this slide represents the background. So we wanted to compare transport infrastructures from the view of different uses of the transportation system, comparing to those in other cities comparable to Moscow. Number two, we analyzed factors influencing transport development, and we compared the data of previous times to the data we have today. We also assess social and economic factors and peculiarities of the transport system. Concerning all this, we figured out 5 most important aspects which are most relevant to the different uses categories. So these public transport uses, then private transport uses. We also considered ecological aspects and ecological safety, as well as safety and security of the whole transportation system. Each of these aspects we try to describe using as many indicators as possible. Thus, we try to present the picture most objectively. And thus, we could see the process and the dynamics of the system. We had more than 200 data, most relevant ones, including national statistic bodies, also ones published by national institutions on transport, and also results of the research conducted by Lomonosov Moscow State University. Then they grouped them into 4 blocks represented by different indexes. Number 1 index is environment and environmental safety and security. Number 2 is an integral index. So we've calculated all this, and our calculation and the results of the research I would like to share with you today. Number 1 important issue I would like to highlight. This is the very rapid development within the period of 2010 to 2015. As a result, Moscow from top 8 became top 3. Why so? Well, the accessibility and the quality of transport is improving. First and foremost, regarding public transport. Initially, Moscow was one of the best here, but still it improves. Certainly, there's always room for improvement. And most important, transport regulation, personal transport regulation are the worst, but even here we can see improvement. Let's speak about quality. There are a lot of examples here, but I would like to specify one. Moscow is one of the tops and 2 steps forward than it used to be. Why? So we conducted some measures against peak hours, as well as thanks to some innovative digital services. And this has a great impact towards the whole situation. 2% index improvement in personal cars, again, in the sphere of traffic jams combating. Accessibility, again, here Moscow is improving. Why so? What are the drivers? We have more and more users of the public transport, excluding metro, and including metro too. 6%, we have 6% growth in the metro line, so we have new lines and new trains. And one more thing, there are limitations. The increase of personal cars is increasing all the time, and this has produced the limitations in the use of the personal cars concerning traffic jams. So for more indicators, accident, death rates in car accidents, the CO2 emission, these are the most dramatic indicators. And today, Moscow is one of the 3 tops in the leaders. I mean, we have overall improvement in this kind of positions. Moscow is not one of the 3rd, but of the tops, but still we have positive dynamics here. Logistics. We have trucks, and thanks to that, Moscow is still among tops. Methods and materials were used enables improvement of the whole situations, and we also analyzed GPS and GPS trackers. All these were analyzed, and if new methods will emerge, they also can be included into our research. And this is already specified by the methods and materials. This is especially important for making the data relevant, as well as to improve the whole policy of the city transportation system improvement. And I think a year later, in a year, I will speak again, and these indicators, this data, and this situation will improve concerning the measures taken by the Moscow city government today. Thank you for your attention.
For presenting this multidisciplinary approach. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have still some minutes left, and I would like to seize this opportunity to introduce one more expert. I would say that he will take just 1 or 2 minutes to make a comment. He's Mr. Franco Moccia. He's the Minister of Transport in the capital city of Argentina, Buenos Aires, and he would like to share his views with us. Please.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation for the authorities of Moscow. We are glad to be invited and being part of this very important forum. Just to put a little bit of context, Buenos Aires is a mega city, but the big city is only 14 million people. If you compare with Moscow, we are 60% of the population, and actually we don't run administratively, we run the center city, the small city, that is 3 million people during the night, and 6 million people during the night. So we have 3 million people coming back and forth, and our strategy is mainly focus on humanize the city in different ways, and actually we are pushing that in terms of how can we improve public transportation. In the last 15 years, Buenos Aires did not improve in that area, and now actually we are in our third term in the city, and actually we won the national election 6 months ago, so we are working together with the different administrations so we can take decisions at the big city level for almost the first time almost in 30 years. The Argentina or the Buenos Aires, the big Buenos Aires transportation system, actually, just to give you, I will surprise you, but our first subway line was finished 102 years old. In 1914, actually was the second city in America that had subways. However, in the last 50 years, we did not invest too much. What's our strategy? Actually, we don't fight in the traffic battle. We have the same problems than Moscow in terms of more cars being sold, and actually in Argentina the oil was actually subsidized by the government, so that problem actually had the wrong incentive, and if you analyze the last 10 years, we had people that were arriving to the city in trains or subways that actually they moved to cars and buses and in the last 10 years we started to subsidized buses that are private in Buenos Aires, but they were never subsidized in 100 years. And with all this nightmare, actually, we had all the wrong incentives. What we are doing today, actually, we are fighting the public transportation battle, not the traffic battle. How we are doing that? Actually, improving our subway line. We move today 1.2 million people per day. We will actually grow to 2 million people in three years. And one of the key learnings that we had, we started to run the subway system just 3 years ago. Before that was federal. And in terms of indicators, we are actually chasing the wrong indicator. In Argentina, we were thinking that we are measuring the subway lines in terms of kilometers and not in terms of people using it. So we detected that putting more trains, we actually can almost increase 60% the usage without increasing the lines at all, just putting more trains in the same tunnels. And actually that's what we are doing. We are buying now 400 cars. That is actually the same number that we run, and that will allow us to reduce frequency from 4 to 2 minutes in peak time. The other thing that we are doing is actually the BRTs, the buses. Buses are very important, and we are taking out space from cars to give it to buses. That has been very successful in Argentina, and in Buenos Aires, we have today 160 kilometers of BRTs, and we expect to build 2 new BRTs per year. There's another important issue that we are working on. Buenos Aires is a port, and actually the port is downtown, and the city is being hurt by the cargo traffic significantly. We are starting a very important new project in the next 3 months that actually is to build a highway, but a highway that will only be used by cargo and long-distance buses, not by cars, that will connect our north and west highway with the port and the north highway. That will impact the city completely. It will allow us to connect 2 areas of the city that today are separated by trucks and buses. And just to give you an idea, 10,000 trucks use that place every day in Buenos Aires downtown. That's a 7 kilometers highway that will go under the downtown. But we are not putting the cars there. We are actually excluding the cars from the highway, because our focus is public transportation, not cars. And we are glad to start this project. This will be a $700 million project that will be started in next December and finished March 2019. And I think that's the way to go, because the focus on trying to solve cars in cities like us. I saw your numbers. There were 4 Latin American cities, top 10 in terms of congestion. 3 in Brazil and 1 in Mexico. Well, Buenos Aires, thanks God, we are not there, and we think that the best way to not be there is actually to work on public transportation, and I think that we can win that battle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing the public transport dimension in this session. So we heard different presentations from the independent organizations, from the academic world, and from the industrial world, and they all agree that the traffic situation in Moscow has improved a lot, and this will reinforce, of course, the position of Moscow. This was done not only because of the measures implemented in traffic, or traffic calming measures, or infrastructure development, but also thanks to the investments and to the development of public transport systems, and also other modes like taxis and the improvement in the taxi business in Moscow, and more will come in the future. A lot of important investments are planned in Moscow. And it's no surprise that the International Transport Forum recognized Moscow with an award in May this year for their transport policy. And in UITP, of course, we fully support what is
Во время уборки Настя отдыхает. Она определяет объем работ, решает, когда начать, и надевает любимое платье. Занимайтесь во время уборки чем угодно, только не самой уборки. А если вам не понравится, мы обязательно вернем деньги.
Not only for the information you provided, but also the timing that you respected. And thank you for the interpreters and the organizers. Thank you. Bye.